Okay, I'm here with my team and I have been elected as spokesperson. So actually, so that's us, CMHA Peel Dufferin. Maybe you go to the next slide. And the next one, you guys know about the dates. Sorry. That's our team. So these are the three guys that are around me right now. We have Ryan, who's hiding behind his phone, and Dale and Steven are the two guys there in black t-shirts. I created the PowerPoint, so I conveniently didn't put a picture of myself in the slide deck. So I am here. The other people that are part of our team that aren't in the photos are our addictions community of practice and the clients that use our services. Next slide. And this is our E-QIP coaches. So we want to thank Nicole, who's hiding behind Ryan there, Anna, and you, Mike. So thank you for your support. This is a surprise slide, but we wanted to thank you guys and appreciate that you're with us and having some fun along the process, because it's been, the laughing has, I think, kept us together. So with next slide. So the history with this project in particular is almost 2 years ago, we started using the GAIN QI M3 Ontario, which moving forward, I will only refer to as GAIN. And we discovered that the assessment tool that was mandated by our funders for us to use, we weren't using it consistently across our addictions workers through the various programs that they sit in at our agency. We discovered that this was problematic because not all clients were receiving the same assessment, which meant they might not be receiving the appropriate services to meet their needs. And we also identified that although we rolled out the GAIN within our clinical staff, we didn't have a process for them to use it. So about a year ago, we started our addictions community of practice, and this is when we identified some of these issues. And soon after that, we had the opportunity to apply for E-QIP to try to see if we could come up with a way to solve our problem. Next slide. So these are our problem statement, and we had great help with Nicole and Anna on this one. So it boiled down to, on a daily basis, since 2017, staff providing addiction services were not integrating the GAIN into each client assessment, resulting in clients not receiving appropriate services to meet their needs. We gathered some data, and of the 410 new clients that entered addiction services between April 1st, 2018 and January 18th, 2019, only 25 GAIN assessments were completed during that time. So our aim was to, by June 30th, that we would have 50% of new clients in addiction services will have a GAIN completed on them. We realize that's a lofty goal, but we do believe that we can achieve that. Next slide, please. Oh, next one. Sorry, I left that one in. This is our journey. We used a lot of diagnostic tools, and we did have a lot of fun with them. The picture there is from our very first E-QIP meeting in Cambridge, where we started jotting down a process that was non-existent for GAIN at the agency. Next slide, please. There we go. So this is our tidied up version of our fishbone diagram. We came up with that diagram in our lead group here of the four of us. And then what we did was we took it back to the addictions community of practice, and we asked everybody to vote for their top three concerns on the fishbone. Next slide, please. This is just a bigger picture of our awesome fishbone diagram. Next slide, please. So like I said, we asked them to vote for their top three, and then what we, with Nicole's help, she made us a very pretty Pareto chart, which is on the next slide. And there's our Pareto chart. So we, from our fishbone, came to the conclusions that some of our core issues were that staff didn't know how to use the tool, they didn't want to use the tool, they had other priorities, and that yeah, those were the big ones. There was, and also lack of process for using the tool. Those were the sort of the main ones, is that staff didn't know how to use it. They didn't feel supported, which should be in there somewhere. And there was no process. So next slide, please. Which fed into our 5 whys. So we used the one that they didn't want to use the GAIN tool. And as we worked through those whys, we came to the bottom conclusion that the staff didn't know how to interpret or use the tool properly. So we realized we had some education we needed to do. Next slide, please. We also decided we really liked the idea of emotional questionnaire, so we did that with all addiction staff, and we on top had the flow for the GAIN across their work cycle, and we asked them to provide us with their feelings around the GAIN in those different areas. And you can see some feelings there. Sometimes they're feeling very confident and encouraged, and then some areas they were feeling unsupported and frustrated. So we were using a lot of these diagnostics now to come up with our change ideas, which are in slides to come. Next slide, please. So we came up from all of those as the root causes. We came up with 4: that staff didn't want to use, that they don't want to use the GAIN, they didn't know how to use the GAIN or interpret it, that our agency did not have a standard process to use GAIN in direct service, and that staff felt unsupported by management in their use of the tool. Next slide, please. So this is our project charter, which has a lot of the things we've already discussed, and I think some of the slides moving forward will capture the rest of the ideas, so I won't go through that with you, but I did like, just for what it's worth, I liked the chart here. Our agency, we have our own project charter, which is much more narrative in nature, and I found this one very simple to fill out. Next slide, please. So this is one of our first PDSAs. This one was around addressing the issue of staff not understanding the tool, and also to address management learning about the tool so they could better support staff. So we created a GAIN, we called it Learning Lab, so it's an internal workshop for addiction staff. And so we created the workshop, we ran the workshop, that was done in January, and subsequently there has been a revision of the workshop, and we are planning to run that again in April for our second PDSA cycle. So we found it helpful, and we'll get into some numbers next as to how it was helpful. The other thing we did with this Learning Lab was we delivered it to management last week, so we're going to try to follow that to see if there's a change there as well. Next slide, please. This slide talks about the GAIN process PDSA that we're engaged in, and we created the process flow in November and December, and we rolled it out initially in February, and we rolled it out again in March because of our COP meetings for addictions were a little light, so we wanted to make sure that we hit everybody. So we are going to, over the next 2 months, discuss the process flow at our addictions practice meetings monthly, and then also track to see if there's any change in the number of OCANs that are done. Sorry, not OCANs, GAIN, sorry. And the other thing is also if there's any changes that needed to be made to the process, because since the first, probably have to update the PDSA cycle, but we rolled it out the first time in February, and we did make 1 or 2 additions to it for the rollout in March. So that's also a living document. Next slide, please. And here is the process, just if you wanted to have a look at it. But it includes addictions workers, clients, and managers, because all 3 of those, and central intake, but all 3 of those people were identified as important in the process. Next slide, please. Here is our driver diagram, which I don't want to walk through the whole thing, but there's lots of information here, and I think the one thing that we learned from this is that lots of our change ideas overlapped with our drivers and our process measures, it's kind of nice to see how lots of things linked together, like the training for staff could also be training for management, which in turn helps management support staff. And then in the process measures areas, we've outlined not just one HR process, not just one process, with the gain, but also we needed an HR process and a data reporting process. So it highlighted a few other gaps that would help to support staff in their work. Next slide, please. There's Dale, and this is a giant board from one of our Change Ideas meetings, which we had a lot of fun at, and this was at the entire community of practice. And the nice thing where we brought it to the bigger community of practice is that the workers, I believe, felt part of the process that was happening and very involved. Next slide, please. I think I may have touched on this as far as how it evolved. Yeah, I don't think I need to talk too much to this one. Except I will say, when I said we wanted to think outside the box to generate as many change ideas as possible, one of the things we really enjoyed was that we used the how to make the problem worse thinking to blow up some of these some ideas, and came up with the change ideas that we had, which was really great. Next slide, please. So the data that we needed, this is where we ran into, and one of our I'm not sure what the word would be, our root causes that we sort of put on hold here is that our database for GAIN, we don't actually have any reports from it. So it really made it challenging to gather some of the data as far as how many GAIN have we actually done. But we did find a workaround. So those are the numbers we've been using. But as far as the numbers of staff and trainings, we can easily track, but we did come up with a way that we can generate numbers, at least for June, when our project is slated to be finished, to see if we've actually made change. And our data record specialist is helping with that. Next slide, please. So this is our run chart. So this speaks to the data that I was just talking about for the GAIN that have been completed since last April. So the blue on the top are the potential clients that could have had a GAIN completed, and the orange on the very bottom are the GAIN that actually were completed. I'm not sure it's in the next slide, but I will talk to it on this slide. But the January 2019, there's two dates there. We, on the 18th of January, did our first PDSA with implementing the lab for the addiction staff. Up to that point, we had only completed 25 GAIN assessments all year, and subsequent to that, for the next month, we completed 12. So right off, we could see a huge increase in the number of GAIN assessments completed. So we're very excited about potential numbers moving forward. Next slide, please. And that's what I just said, so I won't go over that with you. Next slide, please. I think I've spoken to a lot of this, but I think that the biggest, the two biggest things that have come out of this to this point is that we have seen a definite increase in the number of GAIN that have been done in the last 2 months. And the other thing is this project has helped to bring our community of practice of addictions workers together and really solidify our client work along, through this GAIN process. It's acted as a vehicle to be a team building project. Next slide, please. So what we've learned, so what are we most excited about? We're most excited about to see how the PDSAs work over the next few months up until June, and that it really is pushing our addictions work forward at CMHA Peel Dufferin. And we are able to do this because we've been supported really well. Oh, we went back somehow. You want to move ahead in the slides? And one more. There we go. we have been supported really well from senior management and management in the process, and also the community of practice and the staff on this committee here, Dale, Ryan, and Steve. Next slide. So what will we do differently next time? This is a lot of work, which we really enjoyed doing, but I think after Christmas, we stopped meeting bi-monthly on this and we're meeting only monthly. And that, I think, impacted a little bit of the progress we had been making. Things slowed down a little bit. And what's the last part? Impact. The nice thing about this, and I know we have to do our sustainability plans and have those in, but this project itself, the work that's been done and the processes that we have created are embedded within an existing structure. So I believe that even if the four of us disappeared tomorrow, that it would continue on within the community of practice. We are not the keepers of the knowledge. We've created some really solid processes and documents that would remain for the agency to continue to work on. And I think, is that it? There's one more slide. So yeah, we have to do our sustainability plan and continue on with our PDSAs into June. I think that's it.
Thanks so much. And I guess two comments from the E-QIP room here. One is Anna was like cheering along all the way through and says your check is in the mail. And I really would like to know where you got that picture from.
Google. If you've ever Googled yourself on the internet, you will find it.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to look and destroy that.
I know I just honestly, I Googled people's names, and I mean, Anna, I will say, was a good sport. She did provide us her picture, because I told her in the meeting that I couldn't, and I found a picture of Nicole that I didn't put up because it would have been not okay, but we learned a little bit about social media and what's out there.
Oh, that's funny.
So I knew you guys would be good sports in that, so.
Yes.
Well done, well done. Great presentation.
So really appreciate it, it's Debbie speaking, really appreciated the detail that you've gone to with the PDSAs and following that through. It's very encouraging to see that, and we may be tapping you on the shoulder for a webinar on PDSAs down the road, so hoping you would be available. Just a question about Mentors Match. What was that?
The mentors?
Yeah, what is that?
So we didn't put a plan in for that one yet, but one of our ideas was that we wanted to match addiction staff that might be new with an addictions mentor, particularly around GAIN, because people that come to us that need to be newly GAIN trained, we thought it would be helpful for them to have someone who had more experience so they could work together and learning how to use the tool.
Lovely sustainability piece. Very nice. Thanks.
Any other questions from folks on the line? You can type them in the chat box. Just I guess more of a comment than a question, because your project reminds me of another, I think, project that started with another team but never got fully formed, where they were looking at the GAIN actually as well and wanted to look from a client perspective at the experience of receiving that tool or being on the receiving end of being asked about that. And they actually employed some of the experience-based design and did emotional questionnaire, kind of walking through. So when we ask you these types of questions from the question, how do you feel? But really walking that through from a client perspective. And although they couldn't change the tool, it led to a place where they looked at is there's things we can change in maybe the script or how we deliver it to have better uptake from clients or make it a better experience. I was just curious if there's any thoughts of in the future you guys looking at something like that from a client lens.
We actually did create a 5-question survey to give to clients after we did the GAIN with them. And we started doing it in the beginning, and to be brutally honest, I think we forgot. We had a few people, and that was in the beginning when only a few of the staff were doing the gain, so there wasn't a lot of traction. So I think that it's something we could because it's a Survey Monkey, so we could resurrect that and try to get some more client input.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing. A fantastic project, really. A lot of hard work, and I think we're all thoroughly impressed. So thanks so much for sharing with us.
Thanks for all your help.